Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
1, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together. Better now than never. Business before pleasure.
Welcome into the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. Big show tonight. I don't always say this, but I usually say it when Brian Keating is on the show. And my first guest tonight is Brian Keating of KOCO in Oklahoma City. Brian, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. Intro, so I hope I live up to the billing tonight.
Yeah, where would you put your? Am I P. Diddy and you're B.I.G.? Am I B.I.G.? You Puffy? Well, who are you in this situation?
I'm Tupac, man. That's who I always wanted to be. I wanted to be Tupac because he could slay it down.
Yeah, he laid it down, and I'm ready for the biopic of Tupac. The Straight Outta Compton, that was a great movie, but it kind of it was like Iron Man 2, where it led into the Avengers, and now that was Iron Man 2 leading into the Tupac biopic. I'm pretty pumped up.
Into the Tupac, I'm ready to go for that for sure.
And you know what's funny is I don't think people realize that Tupac might have been able to. I don't want to get into any conspiracy theories, but he might have been able to at least survive when the cord was pulled, as far as lifelines go. I don't think people realize that as much as it was actually a story when he died.
Yeah, he got shot on my birthday. That's a true story.
Really?
Yeah, he was.
Oh. The most interesting thing that's happened on my birthday is Shea Hillenbrand hitting like a walk-off against the Yankees.
That's not bad.
Yeah, but I'm not a Red Sox or Yankee fan, so. But it's not bad. But let's get into the real reason why you're here. Oklahoma City has made the conference finals, something that you preached was possible going into the playoffs. And I tried to get you to go down the route of saying that we need to jump off the Oklahoma City bandwagon. You stayed with them this whole time saying anything's possible. What are your thoughts right now?
You know, I've just seen this group kind of turn it off and on so often. And we saw it a number of times this year. When they wanted to play at the it really clicking as well as it did in that Spurs series. I didn't have any idea they would beat the Spurs in 6. I didn't have any idea they'd have a 26-point lead. You know, that's not necessarily possible. Flipping the switch and seeing Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook dominate a series against anyone, that didn't surprise me at all. So am I a little surprised they're here? I mean, it was possible because they got a pretty good team. And there were some question marks going in. You asked me a lot of questions about Billy Donovan. And I think a couple of months ago, I'm not sure that would have happened either. But flipping a switch, I've seen this team do that a bunch.
Looking at the way Billy Donovan, Donovan got the Durant, Westbrook staggering correct. At least, he didn't have to worry about it in the Dallas series. That just worked out on its own. This series, he got, after game one was just a complete disaster on all fronts for them. And as far, and once he figured out, he's got a big three in the post as far as Ibaka, Cantor, and Adams. And he figured out a way to, manage those three so that they were effective at the right times versus whether it be. And really, you didn't have to worry about Duncan. It was pretty much ignore Duncan and then figure out how the other one could be effective in the post while Duncan was on the floor. Ignore Duncan, focus on Aldridge or West. And he managed to find a way to manage those three into a way to be successful. And really, in Scott Brooks' defense, he never really had a big three or a healthy team for the last 3 years, really.
No, I mean, that's true. Scott. And I had been seeing this throughout the course of the year. I thought their offense was always better. I thought you could see Billy Donovan's influence. Their ball moves, better options, guys getting better shots. And I think you could see that evolution. I think you could see the evolution with Russell Westbrook as well. I mean, the guy was in the top three. But he's leading the playoffs in assists by a considerable margin. So we've been seeing Billy Donovan's footprint for a long time. But what he figured out is that when they play their biggest lineup, they're really hard to beat. And it goes against the grain of basically what everyone else in the league is doing. So everyone now, super small, shoot threes, and try to get up and down and get open shots. And I know that's what the analytics say. The Thunder have gone completely against the grain. And what they figured out is if you miss and you've got the big guys and they can't take the ball from you, and they dominated against the San Antonio Spurs, just dominated it. Steven Adams is going to be a star in the NBA. That guy is a stud, and he's just figuring it out a little bit more by the day. And Billy Donovan inserted Enes Kanter in there, who's a dynamic offensive center, a elite rebounder. And what they did is the Spurs just couldn't get rebounds, and the Thunder dominated them on the interior. And if the Thunder if the Spurs run them out and the Thunder can't play that big lineup, they're in big trouble. Against the Spurs, that big lineup is deadly.
Well, and I thought with, looking at Adams, I think, him, Ibaka, and Kanter, that is a hell of a front line to have to deal with on a consistent basis if you're a Western Conference team. And, I think looking at the Warrior, going into this Warrior series, I don't think, everybody wants to – it's been the same thing with the Thunder and the Raptors. It's like, they're not that good. They'll be done by at least the second round, or they'll be done by the first round in the Raptors case. But for the these teams have a combination that people kind of sleep on in Durant and Westbrook, and there's a combination between Lowry and DeRozan that people kind of sleep on, but there are completely different reasons why people sleep on them. And you look at the front line for the Warriors, I could see a situation where Steven Adams and Andrew Bogut get into a little something, and it causes some suspensions. Now, who it benefits and who it affects, that's yet to be determined. But I could see those two getting into some kind of a scuffle that causes some suspensions in the series. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think we could definitely see some sort of extracurricular kinds of stuff. Both of those guys were listed, I believe, in the top 5 biggest players in the league.
Yeah.
Guys kind of mix it up. Steven has a reputation. He just gets guys to get annoyed enough at him, and the other guy kind of retaliates. And he's figured out ways to do that. And, both tempers flare a little bit. I think if there were suspensions, I think that really hurts Oklahoma City because Steven Adams is their third best player. He's really good and just getting better by the day. In the Spurs series, kid is 22 years old and just coming into his own. where, Andrew Bogut, he's not one of their 3 or 4 best players. He's a big guy that will battle, but losing Steven Adams, he completely was.
Yeah, looking at the Thunder, what do you think the key is for them? Is it getting into a kind of, obviously these two teams can score, but do you think they need to kind of muddy it up enough, or hope Curry has to miss a game or two? What do the Thunder need right now?
No, I don't think they have to muddy it up. I think, I kind of tried to. If the Thunder can play then Ibaka and Cantor in the league, and if they can play those 2 guys, and you mentioned those 3, you add Kevin Durant, who's a very good rebounder, 6'11", and who's the best rebounder. Dominate the glass and dominate the interior. And against the Warriors team that really doesn't have those pieces. When they played in Oklahoma City in February, the third bad turnover, and everyone remembers Steph Curry hitting the near half-court shot to beat them. But that was kind of the recipe. Keep the Warriors off the glass. If the Warriors make so many threes and put the big guys in so many bad spots that they can't play them together, and I think more against the Warriors than even anybody else in the league is turnovers. They're one of the worst in the league at turning it over. You'll live with some of Russell Westbrook's aggressive turnovers because he can come right and incredible. Grant, way too many. But if you turn it over against the Warriors in the run of play, they're not going to get dunks. They're going to get threes. And that's what will get them beat. So those are the 2 things for me that have to be sown.
Well, the thing I think with the Thunder is, well, one, they're able to play big. Not that they are the Celtics from the 80s, but they're able to have their first 3 are, with Parrish, McHale, and Bird, 3 bigs basically with, Cantor or Adams, Ibaka, and then Durant. You're playing basically with 3 center forwards. And, essentially you look at the Warriors, if you get punished in if you're screwing up with live turnovers, you're gonna give up 3s, not 2s. And you also look at that Spurs game, the game 6, when it got down to 12. I tweeted out it's only 12 because earlier in that series there was a situation where they had a chance to win it, and Durant and Westbrook had 3 out of 4 bad turnovers down the stretch. And I think it was game 3 actually, where they could have had a chance to go 2-1. And they screwed
game 3.
And I thought that Westbrook and Durant had that chance. Maybe not Durant, but Westbrook just going out of control. But then he took that step back 3 where I thought, okay, they're down by 12. He takes a step back 3. This is going to be a miss because it's a bad shot. He ends up making it. They end up winning the game. But, he has the tendency to take really bad shots, make really bad turnovers, and cause games to get more interesting than they should. That's why I thought the Spurs could come back and at least make it a free throw shooting contest at the end.
Yeah, you're right. The Thunder totally lost focus at the end of this game, and the Spurs were playing for their lives and made a run at it.
Hmm? Yeah.
he's turned it over a lot. And his are usually in traffic, probably trying to do a little too much, and they'll put an extra a lot. Got to clean that up. I'll say I think you can live with some of Russell Westbrook's turnovers. Now, when he takes bad shots, and in game, all the games run together, but I think it was game 3. Happy. And the one thing you have to watch about Russell Westbrook in this series especially is if the Warriors get on one of those where they can go 3 possessions and hit 3 threes, what Russell can't do because they don't shoot it as good as they do. No one does. And that's where Russell's got to be a little bit careful. Just play his game, get to the rim, get to the foul line, get the advantages against I think anyone in the league. And if they can play that style and not get into a match the Warriors 3 for 3, again, I think they have a chance to win this series. I really do.
Well, looking at going into this series, what is your theory as far as what's going to happen? Do you think that, this is going to be a quick series for the Warriors? Do you think it's going to be a long series, medium series? What's your take right now?
I think it's going to be a long series. I think you're looking at the best 2 teams. And obviously, Cleveland has done all very well against LeBron. I think what the Thunder are doing is figuring out who this group is with a new coach, and I think they're sort of figuring out their roles. And I think what you watched in Bill in that series against manipulating lineups and cutting down his rotation. And I think another thing about this Thunder team, the rotation's gotten a lot smaller. So where they might be a little bit lacking at the end of the bench, the guys that have to play during the regular season, Kyle Singlers,
Brian? Just 1 second here. It appears Oakland has some problems with the phone lines. We'll try to get Brian on here. Just 1 second. Keith, let's play Rodeo Clown for just a second.
I love playing clowns.
You like playing clowns?
Well, it depends on my mood, but tonight I'm in the mood.
You're in the mood for clowns? Okay. All right, well, let's talk about some clowns. Okay, so clowns in the realm. Let's talk about the clown from It. Do you still go next to gutters in the street after seeing the movie It with that crazy-ass clown that was in the gutter?
Well, no, I absolutely not. That clown is a freaky clown. I'm not as scared of clowns, but that clown's a freaky-ass clown.
Yeah, he's a very disturbing clown. And I don't understand, looking at as far as, what's his name? Who's the dude that created It? Stephen King.
Yeah.
Would you say that Stephen King needs to take a break from making clown movies?
I there's only so many clown themes you can go.
All right. Let's try calling Brian again here. You need the number again, Keith?
No, we'll try giving him a call here.
All right. Let's get him back on the line.
Hello?
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
I'm good.
We're back on the air. We're still on the air. Sorry, we had to play Rodeo Clown for a second. It's a classic.
All right.
But okay. So looking at a couple more things before I let you go.
Sure.
Looking at the, we didn't quite get everything with the Thunder Warriors series. What's your take on what kind of series this will be?
I think it's a long series. I think this goes back and forth. I think both teams will win on the other's home floor, but I think the Thunder are getting better and better. And maybe that's my biggest takeaway from that Spurs series is that I think their development, they figured out their roles. They figured out really what their identity is. And I think they've got the biggest guys on the floor, and they've got really athletic big guys that no one in the league can match up with. And when you pair that with two just supernova superstars, they're figuring it out. And they're getting more confident by the day. And I think not that the Warriors are anywhere scared of the Thunder. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't want to make it sound like that. But I think of anyone, if they had to pick the team that they probably would want to play the least, I think it's the Thunder because athletically they can match them. And the Thunder do some things that they don't defend very well and that they'll struggle with. And it's a difficult matchup in some ways. And I think they have a chance to win this series. Now, I'm not picking them to win it, but I think they have a chance to win it.
I definitely think they have a chance. I think the thing that's not going the Thunder way, though, is the Warriors are hearing all this mess about the Cavs. And really, I guess it could kind of go both ways. Okay, so the Warriors hear all this mess about the Cavs, how they're just taking care of business in the East. You're going to have to worry about everything in the, with the Cavs coming the finals and whatnot, how they're playing so well. I think they're going to want to at least not send a message just in this series, definitely game one. But we've seen how the Thunder have responded after a blowout in game one. And against a team that's as good, if not, is in the same realm as the Warriors. So I don't think the Thunder need to worry, but there's the factor of the Warriors being really motivated to send a huge message to the Cavs. But there's also the factor of the Durant wanting to send a message that maybe I'm still the second best player to LeBron, or along those lines, or I want to face LeBron again. Basically, there's two very big. I hate to use the word because I hate the people that use it, but narratives in this series.
Yeah, there's a lot of storylines, narratives, and all. You're looking at two really good teams, and for all that you say, the Warriors want to send a message to the Cavs. Well, I don't think they're just going to roll the ball out there and say, I'm really motivated and go dominate Oklahoma City. I just don't think that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I think the Warriors are certainly going to be motivated. If you're not motivated in the Western Conference Finals playing for a trip to the NBA Finals, then I don't know what you're doing. I just think Oklahoma City is talented enough, with superstars enough, that they're going to be in this series, and I think they're going to be in almost every game. And I think they have, it's just one of those deals. If you're playing some close games against the Warriors, you better win the close games because there might be a game or two that they just make a bunch of shots and you're not in it. So when you get an opportunity to win at Oracle, you'd better win it. And they did that in San Antonio. They played two really close games in San Antonio, and they won them both. And they're going to have to do that again in this series.
A couple more questions before I let you go. All right, best case scenario for the Thunder in this series?
Best case scenario for the Thunder is they get every rebound and Steven Adams continues to go, 15 and 12, which that's certainly possible against a Warriors team that's going to be small. Kevin Durant plays like the MVP, averages like 40 points. Russell Westbrook doesn't turn it over and makes a few shots, and they'll have a chance to win. That's the best case scenario, that everything goes right. I think the worst case scenario is that they figure out that they can't play those big guys, Andre Iguodala makes a lot of threes. He's a big key because if the Thunder are going to want to put Enes Kanter in the game, he'll probably guard Andre Iguodala. And they'll say, well, if you want to run offense through Andre Iguodala and try to take advantage of what Kanter can't do, well, then we'll let you do that. You can forget about Steph Curry. The Thunder.
Well, if you're the Thunder, do you live by, as the Warriors do, live by the three, die by the three? If you're the Thunder, do you live by the bigs, die by the bigs?
To some degree, I think yes. I do. I think you do. And that's bigs being playing Adams and Ibaka together or Adams and Kanter together with Kevin. I think you do. I mean, that's your identity now. If you play slow, then you're letting guys into the game that aren't your best players. So I think you got to go down swinging with your best punch. And I don't think they'll panic. I think if it doesn't go well tomorrow night, I think they'll stay with that. And that's what you saw in the Spurs series. And then little tweaks here and there made the difference. But they stayed with their game plan. And Billy Donovan really made a point of saying that. I mean, this is who we are. This is who we've developed into being. We're not just going to get away from that because it didn't go well for one night. If we change who we are, then we have no chance. And I think if you try to play the Warriors game, you don't play it as well as they do. So you better do something else and try to get them to play to your strength a little bit. And if the Thunder can get the Warriors to play to their strength a little bit, then I think they have a shot.
Do you, last question before I let you get out of here, the whole Greg Popovich thing, have you ever asked a question to Greg Popovich?
I have, yes.
What was his response?
It was I don't remember every question. I asked him one because the Thunder opened with the Spurs this year. It was the first game of the year, and it was Billy Donovan's first game as head coach. And I asked Pop what if anything he remembered about his first game as coaching a head coach in the NBA. And he was kind of a jerk about it. He was like, I don't know. And then he said, I think I slapped Avery Johnson on the butt and said, let's go. Like, okay, whatever.
So
he gave me nothing.
Okay, well, if I ever get a chance to be in the media room with Popovich, my first question is going to be, why do you spell your name with 2 G's?
Fair question. He's like the one dude
what kind of
on
loser
earth
spells Greg with 2 G's? The guy said
it's a solid question.
I'm trying to look at I don't want to. I'm not a journalist, so I can't It wouldn't affect me as a journalist. Like, oh, you're becoming part of the story. But if I asked that question, it would defend the rest of these. The problem is the rest of these journalists that are in the room. The problem is the rest of these journalists that are in the room are asking these that they would make me out to be the bad guy with Popovich.
Yeah, that's probably right. I think Pop would be more inclined to tell you to ask that question to his mom and dad. He would just pass the buck. Yes. He would say, I didn't name myself, so go, my mom and dad, who I'm not sure are still with us, but I'm not sure they're not either.
We can't assume, we can't deny.
There you go. That's exactly right. He would pass the buck, but I can assure you would get nothing out of that question.
Yeah. All right, Brian, well, before I let you go, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the TVs, the internets, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. The Twitter account is KOCO Keating, Keating, KOCO Keating. Covering the Thunder, man, lots of good stuff all the time on the Thunder. But, when you get to football season, man, you'll have to hit me up because college football is pretty big around Oklahoma, too. Yes. So I'm looking forward to this. I am fired up for this series. I think it has a chance to be really, really entertaining. And that starts on Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, we will be right back here with an interview from John Lieber, former Cub great. And thank you, Brian Keating, for being on here on Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com.
You bet, bud.
Lost or found. lying by your side. Take another second to keep breathing in the moment before it's gone. You never know when others lost until you find just what it costs to be wrong. I wonder if you think of me passing by, you think you see me coming. I wonder if you pull me in, kiss me just one time again. Cause in the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. Cause in the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. Days will keep on coming and the nights will keep on going till they're tired. Falling fast asleep and as they dream of ghosts of beats filled with desire. The chance of life is all around, a chance to take is always found. Oh, writing on the lullabies, I'm alone and live your life. Oh, in the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. Take another second to keep breathing in the moment before it's gone. You never know when love is lost until you find just what it costs to be wrong. I wonder if you think of me passing by, you think you see me coming. I wonder if you pull me in, kiss me just one time again. The final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. I am joined here by John Lieber, former pitcher for the Pirates, Cubs, Yankees, Phillies, and most importantly, Abraham Lincoln High School in Council Bluffs, Iowa. John, how are you doing tonight?
Great, thank you.
Well, John, looking at the major leagues right now, the Cubs are off to a stellar start, and with that comes the inevitable question: when is it going to fall apart for them? What was it like when you were pitching there, with the feeling like at some point, with all the fans thinking at some point things are just going to crumble in on you?
Well, I'll be honest with you. As a player, I don't think any of us on that team ever felt like that. Like things were really going to fall apart. I think we played, the best to our ability. Obviously, I think the years I was there, we had a couple good years. I know in 01 and my last year there in 08, those two teams, we were pretty decent, pretty good, and we had a chance to really do some things. Unfortunately, the 01 team, we fell out of it there. I think the end of August, early September, just kind of ran out of gas. And then the 08 team, just you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. I really thought that team had a chance to possibly go all the way. And obviously got swept, I think, by the Dodgers, I believe. And then, looking at this year, I had a chance to experience spring training with this team for a couple weeks, and it's just a different feeling, different atmosphere compared to when I was there. It's more relaxed. I think management has done a great job putting the pieces together, and and it's all starting with Theo Epstein at the top there. Let me take that back with the Ricketts. Starting at the top there, and then with the Ricketts making all the changes they made, bringing in Theo, and then obviously I think bringing in Joe Madden has made that team so much more relaxed and much better to go out there and compete at an everyday level. So that team was very special from what I saw, and I really think this is going to be the team that wins it all. I mean, I really believe that, and I think they're in a great situation right now, the start they've gotten off to really go out and make some moves here in the next month or two. The rumors supposedly flying around going after Mike Kyle, how much of that is true, but if that's the case, I think they could do that and go out and get a top-notch starter as well, and put those pieces together towards winning a world championship. So they're in a great situation, obviously.
The Schwarber injury it obviously hurts them, but not in the way people think. I think the way it hurts them is obviously it takes a big bat out of the lineup, but in a little bit of a way, it limits their flexibility as what they can trade at the deadline. Because whereas they went into this season with Schwarber, Hayward, Fowler, and Soler, now and then Zobrist, and you had kind of a plethora of outfielders that you could move around and try to find a place for, in a trade for a pitcher or whatever you may need at the All-Star break. But they don't have that as much flexibility as they did going into the season.
Well, I think you're right on a major league level. If you're looking at talent at the major league level, but as far as talent throughout the minor leagues, they're loaded. I mean, they are, they could go down there and take some guys that they're probably relying on and trade those pieces. I mean, they have enough to back it up. I totally understand what you're saying. If you want, somebody wanted a bat like Schwarber, that's ready to go and ready to step up and play at the major league level, but they might have to trade maybe a few more guys to go out and get that extra person. So, they always got somebody to step in there, it seems like, and they're far from short at the minor league level.
When you were playing, as you got older, you played till you were 38. What was the toughest thing for you, going into each spring training? Was it, was it physically getting back ready, or was it mentally getting ready for the spring? What was the toughest part as you got older?
I think both.
Yeah.
Family life. Kids were getting older. Putting the physical effort into it was definitely tougher. And then, just the mental aspect, to compete at that level with younger guys, it just breaks you down and wears you down. It's definitely, it definitely can be a struggle.
Was there, And as you started making more money as a pitcher, did it become tougher to, was it easier to say no to people, or was it tougher to, I guess, was it easier to find people that were trying to latch on to you, I guess?
Not really. I was very fortunate in that. I always stayed grounded, and the biggest compliment I've had from people is I'm very down to earth and humble, and I try to stay that way no matter what. I've always been a guy that's always been there to try and help, but at the same time, I try to do it within my means and something that makes sense.
Was there anybody that you played with that you either had a conversation with or just watching from afar you really felt bad? You don't have to give out any names, but were there teammates that you felt bad for that people really took advantage of their generosity?
Yeah, there was a few people. I mean, you could see it, at that level, I'll be honest with you, I think we all think we know what we're doing, and looking back on it now, there's a few things I wish I'd have done differently. But you live and you learn is the way I look at it, and you move on. We all make our mistakes. We wake up the next day, and we hope to make it a better day than what it was before.
You got to play for some kind of crusty managers throughout your time in the majors. Is there such thing? I mean, Joe Maddon seems about as happy-go-lucky as you can get for a manager. In your time playing in the majors was, it seems like it's now the thing to do is to get kind of a happy-go-lucky manager. Back then it was get the kind of old-school type of guy. Did you like playing for the old-school type of guy? Would you have rather have played for a Joe Maddon type that you're seeing right now? Or where were you at as far as what type of manager you needed?
Well, I think it's kind of a couple different levels. I don't mean to go into this in detail, but I've learned, I think, for me, I think as a young player, I think the old school type of manager is good. I had Jim Leland when I first came up, intimidated, not saying you don't want to do good, but, I think you go out there and do the best you can every time because, you want to make an impression, basically. I think the older you get, I think communication's more important coming from a manager for a veteran guy because there are more things in our lives compared to when, we're younger. And, guys are dealing with family issues that people may not know when they're coming to the ballpark and that can affect their play. And, Charlie Manuel, I would have to say, was probably the best I ever had at communicating with players and, just seeing how guys were doing and coming around after a win or a loss and, saying something to almost every guy. So, I think that was huge. And the way Joe does it now, he involves everybody, which is good. The main thing you try not to do as a young player, I think it's great for him, is don't take advantage of the situation because Joe is all relaxed and Joe does this or does that. At the same time, you better go out there and do your job and know how to do it and, play it the right way. So, but at the same time, we can have fun while we're playing this game as well. So,
did you, when you were playing with the Phillies with Charlie Manuel, he was dealing with kind of a transition mode of them moving into having, the Ryan Howard, Utley era and Jimmy Rollins era. And, I mean, there was times where there was definitely growing pains with that I'm sure you witnessed, whether it be with Rollins or Utley. Did you, as a pitcher, what's your role? Do you just kind of sit back and not really say anything? Do you speak up when, things need to be said with kind of a younger team that's transitioning into something great? Guys
act differently. I was never a guy that really said anything. I just tried to, hopefully guys would follow by action more or less, I tried to lead by my actions. But there's some guys that would say stuff, you might have some guys that go off the handle on younger guys, which I don't think we had that. But then we had guys that do it more under control, and I think, Jamie Moyer was one of those guys, my last year or two over there, that was very good at that, talking to the younger guys and getting them to understand on preparation and so forth. So, it just varies from team to team or teammate to teammate, I guess.
Was there anybody that you played with late in your career that when you were playing against them, or when you didn't have not a great impression of them, or you didn't really have an impression of them, and then once you played with them late in your career, you're like, man, I wish I had been teammates with this guy for 10 years?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple. I just can't think of any right off the top of my head. I know that's kind of strange, but I know there's a few guys. Yeah, you just, you hear that from everybody. It's just like, man, I can't stand that guy. Just kind of guessing the way he carries himself or whatever. But he comes over to the team, or you go over there, and it's just like, wow. Turns into one of your best friends almost.
Yeah. Who was somebody that that people misinterpret? Who missed a teammate of yours that you thought got a bad rap that didn't deserve it?
Honestly, I think Sosa.
Yeah.
Sammy, he the way, he did some things that rubbed people the wrong way, and I can understand it, but I think deep down inside, he was a really genuine, good person, that really cared. I think he, obviously he was on a different level than most guys or most players, and he had all this stuff around him, and the way he carried himself every day, I couldn't imagine going through that. But I had no problems with the guy. No matter what he did, he was always good to me. He treated me nicely, treated me fairly. I know there were some situations that, like I said, rubbed people the wrong way, but for some of the things that come out and people talk to him that really don't know him, it's unfortunate because, I think he is a caring guy, and, he loved playing the game. So
my impression of him is I agree with you. Like, I thought, as a 12, 13-year-old kid, well, in 8 when he was having the home run race with McGuire,
yeah,
I always felt like he was, he was always giving money back to the Dominican Republic. He was trying to, every cause he could possibly do with the Dominican Republic, he was involved in. And I felt like, a lot of people just look at like, oh, well, they'll just say, oh, he's a bad teammate, or he left Chicago on bad terms. But in the grand scheme of things, okay, is that as big a deal as how much he has done for the country of the Dominican Republic? Like, as far as players coming in, he wasn't the first, but I think, he further blew it up as far as getting kids involved in baseball, and then just, donating his time and money all to that country.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And I think the thing that hurt Sammy with a lot of people was just his arrogance, probably, the way he carried himself at times. But, you almost have to, in that situation. So a lot of people won't take advantage of you, I guess. I don't know, but, like I said, I had no problems with the guy. I enjoyed playing with him. He played hard every day. He showed up to play, and that's all I could ask for as a teammate.
Mm-hmm. A couple more things before I let you go. Did you looking at the new age of baseball with the analytics and, these new, just a lot of new school mentality. What do you think of, the Royals are struggling this year, but do you think the Royals are the perfect example of kind of finding the in-between? And, do you think the teams that go too far one way or too far the other way are the ones that are going to be kind of, they're not going to be the ones that are going to be.
You mean as far as with the analytics and all that?
Yeah, the analytics or just not doing analytics at all.
I can't stand it. I'll be honest with you. It drives me nuts. I just, the spin, the velocity rate, I mean, maybe I'm old school. It's just, I don't even care for it. I mean, I know it's a different generation. Maybe they're trying to add a little bit more to the sport, but to me, it's just overanalyzing. I mean, they're starting to draft kids, using this stuff, and I don't understand it. If a guy can go out there, and if he's throwing 90, 91, and he's getting people out, there's a good chance, he's going to be successful and have a pretty good career, So, but I think they base it all off of the spin stuff, and if and you're going to judge a guy off of if his spin isn't this much compared to the other guy that throws 5 miles an hour harder. It's just a shame. It really is. I just don't understand it.
With the analytics and the, I guess, video watching and everything, I want to get your take on this theory. I can't remember who brought it up, but with all the no-hitters that are coming in all of a sudden, the theory is, how that everybody wants this perfect swing where it's all the way through the zone, and you'll hit this average as long as your bat is on this plane, and you can hit any pitch. And pitchers have figured out holes in that swing, or areas to throw to avoid that swing path, which has led to more no-hitters. Do you buy into that theory?
If it's working for them, why not? I was just never a big, video guy or anything. I just went out and played the game. You knew a guy's weakness and strength, and you pitched accordingly to the game plan on what a guy's doing. So I tried not to overanalyze too much. My thing was going out there and getting quick swings, being aggressive, and pitch down in the zone, pitch up accordingly when you needed to. But work on ground balls, get the ground balls, and just pitching the contact basically. So, but I know guys are different. It's they have 5 or 6 pitches, and they're more of a thinking. It's a mindset for them, and for me, it never was. It was just be aggressive, get the team on and off the field as quick as possible. Let's get in and hit, and let's score some runs, and hopefully it's a 2-hour baseball game. So,
one more thing. What I'm going to call this your Moonlight Graham moment. And what's your what was the one? Was there a batter that you faced, maybe 1 or 2 times that maybe got a little bit of the best of you, or that you wish you would have faced again? That you got an opportunity, but you didn't have a longevity of a kind of a rivalry with a certain batter. Was there anybody like that for you?
Probably Klesko. It just the stats that pop up, and Ryan, he's just an aggressive hitter, swings hard. And I had trouble with lefties throughout my career, for the most part. But he's the one guy that, he could hit it a mile, or I'd make a good pitch and break his bat and loop one down the right field line. You know what I mean? It's like I could never find a way to get the guy out. he was just that comfortable, I guess, against me, and some guys are like that, so.
Well, and then who was somebody that got that you never faced during, like, that your careers matched up, but you just never got a chance to face them? Who was somebody that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I have to come back on that.
All right. Well, we'll have that on the next interview, hopefully. Well, John, before I let you go, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Facebook at Jonathan Lieber? Is there anything else you want to tell folks before you get out of here?
No, man, just enjoy this baseball season, because special things are happening, especially with the Cubs. It's going to be a good season, and for those Cubby faithful out there, don't give up. This start is for real, and they're going to finish strong. So.
Baby, you're a mystery. Tell me, what's a girl gotta do? Looking at the history doesn't seem to give any clue. Just when I think I understand it all, you seem to unravel some more. Ooh, na, 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 ooh, I never know nobody like you. Ooh, na, 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 ooh, now, now I know. Baby, you're an enigma. Ooh, na, 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 oh. Yeah, you keep me guessing on confessing now, well, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Baby, you're a riddle. I'm caught up in the middle of you. I'm trying to think bigger, but I can't seem to figure it through. I wanna make it better, but now I'm scared of looking a fool. Oh, baby, no, I've never been very good at playing it cool. Just when I think I understand it all, I find I know nothing at all. I never know nobody like you. Ooh, na, 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 ooh, now, now I know. You're an enigma. Ooh, na, 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 oh. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Ooh, baby, you're an enigma.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. I'd like to thank Ryan Keating and John Lever for being guests on the first hour of the show. Right now, though, I'd like to welcome in Jordan Buscarini, host of Drive Time Sports on KOAL AM 750 and 103.9 FM in Utah. Jordan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you guys?
I'm doing well. I'm kind of in the, I guess, I never really feel good because I'm a Knicks fan. And you're kind of getting, you've had as far as you, I don't know how old you are, but I've never seen a Knicks championship. As far as Lakers go, I'm judging from your profile picture on Twitter, I'm guessing 5 championships you've seen.
I'm 30, so I've seen all 5 of Kobe's. I don't remember 2 from Magic's era, but I was definitely alive during that time, and I got bedtime stories from my father growing up about it. So, but no, fortunately for me, I've seen some great times as far as NBA basketball goes from my preferred team. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Lakers. My thing with the Lakers is. The diehards don't bother me. But it's tough to find the diehards because it's cool to root for the Lakers. Like it's not really cool to root for them. Like all the teams that I've rooted for in my lifetime, I've given up on the Cubs, and that was never cool. I rooted for the Knicks, and it's cool at times, but they're never going to win. And then. In football, the Giants, I guess it was cool for a couple years, but it was kind of cute and cuddly with their upsets and whatnot, but it was, never really it was never cool. I've never been with the cool team, and I've always wanted to do that. So I need to find a team that it would be cool to root for. And the Lakers are always that cool team that all the cool kids root for, but I don't want to say it's just in Omaha, but I assume it's everywhere for everybody. The cool kids root for the Lakers.
Yeah, I see where you're. I see where you're going with that. Outside of the Los Angeles Lakers, I grew up a Los Angeles Rams fan, a Los Angeles Dodgers fan. So outside of the Lakers' success, I've had a few bones tossed my way. Major League Baseball has kind of been tough for me pretty much my entire life. The Rams, having them back in LA is a beautiful thing. We had the greatest show on turf, which I believe was a complete. They underachieved. Let's put it that way. You say, how could you underachieve with one Super Bowl? That team was set up to win 3 or 4 Super Bowls.
They
go back.
Won 2 out of 3 years.
Absolutely. Well, if Dick Vermeil doesn't retire, who knows how many Super Bowls that core wins? But they kept that core together for 3 or 4 years. You're absolutely right. They should have won at least 2 out of 3. So, I know where you're going with that. I guess disappointment is a part of life when it comes to professional sports.
Well, so you've gotten your beloved Rams, you've gotten your beloved Lakers. With the Rams, though, they got the 1, and they would have had another. I feel like we don't blame. We blame Mike Martz for the wrong reasons. And the reasons we blame Mike Martz, it's like, his play calling, he didn't have a defense, all this stuff. But I don't think we blame Mike Martz for the right reasons. The reasons why we should be blaming Mike Martz is for basically turning his quarterbacks into, I guess, their brains into mush with the way he would tell them to hold the ball as long as possible and then just bomb it. And that would lead, Mark Bolger, and you look at Kurt Warner, those guys were basically patients at a hospital for most of the time. They were with Mike Martz as their head coach because he'd just be like, hey, sit in the pocket and then just bomb it and just get drilled as hard as you possibly can. That's the best thing for our team. That's how Mike Martz went. Do you agree with that?
I do. When you look at the options that Mike Martz had as far as pass protection, Robert Holcomb, who was converted from a halfback to a fullback, was very good in pass protection, especially late in the Kurt Warner era. The thing that drives me nuts you bring up Mark Bulger. The Mark Bulger era in St. Louis Rams football should have never existed. And that's my biggest gripe with Mike Martz. Kurt Warner became the scapegoat for a team that was slowly...
Well, and he was a shell of himself with the Giants, too. It took him like 3 whole years with the Rams, the Giants, and the Cardinals to finally get back to himself because of all the hits he took with the Rams and Mike Martz.
Right, correct. Well, and you being a Giants fan, I'm sure you remember, it was during Kurt Warner's final season in St. Louis. He played with a concussion in the second half of a regular season game against the Giants with a broken hand, no less. I believe he had a broken hand, a cracked hand, and he was playing with a concussion, if I remember correctly. So, he was a tackling dummy for a long time, especially the final 2 years of his stay in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I feel like with listening to you talk about NBA, I feel like we'd be doing us a disservice, or the fans or whatnot fans, if we didn't talk NBA right now, though.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I feel like we're both getting into our bitter sides of our lives too much right now. That it's being too selfish of us. But looking at the Western Conference Finals with the Thunder and the Warriors, right now, are you at all discounting the Thunder at what they can do in this series? They've been close in a couple games with the Warriors. They have a chance. They have 2 of the top 5 players in the league. Are you and they have a front line that, could cause some problems for the Warriors. What is your take on this series right now?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head with the front line. I mean, obviously, they have 2 of the top 3 players in the series, and Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. The front line, though, is really where I think the success for Oklahoma City will lie in the series. You go back and you look at the way Enes Kanter was able to spread the floor offensively for Oklahoma City in the series against San Antonio. That was key. It also opened it up down low for Steven Adams, who was very efficient from the field offensively. There was a couple of games where he was, I believe, 6 of 7, 6 of 8 from the field. He was a perennial double-double guy, it seemed like, throughout that 6-game set. And then you have Serge Ibaka. He may not have been putting up blazing numbers that are going to pop out at you as far as the box score goes. But Serge Ibaka was great defensively. He adjusted a lot of shots. He made life very difficult for San Antonio down low. So when you talk about those 3 guys, I think that's where the success for Oklahoma City will have to come from. Kevin Durant's going to get his. I can't wait to watch Draymond Green and Kevin Durant go at it. I can't wait to watch Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook go at it. Those are the matchups that are going to be getting the most pub. But at the end of the day, what can Steven Adams and his Kanter and Serge Ibaka do? I think that's how essentially that's how Oklahoma City is going to win or lose the series.
I brought this up with Brian Keating, who works for KOCO in Oklahoma City. My idea is he's covering Thunder. My thought is a Adams versus Bogut type of scuffle. And, we've seen this before. I'm a Knicks fan. The Knicks have had problems with the Heat, whether it be with – actually, it helped them when it was LJ versus Mourning, but during the P.J. Brown and Charlie Ward scuffle, that screwed the Knicks. We've always – and then you look at the Spurs and Suns, the Robert Horry hip checking. There's always Steve Nash. There's always somebody that gets screwed in some situation. Do you see a situation between Adams and Bogut that gets scuffled up and costs one of these teams? Could you see a situation that arises like that?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Hopefully, if you're a Golden State fan, you would think that everything that this team has been through over the last 2 years, and not only winning an NBA championship, but battling back from a deficit in the NBA Finals, winning 73 games this season. You got a 2-time MVP on your team. Andrew Bogut, he's a veteran in this league. He's played on some horrible teams in Milwaukee. He's played on, obviously an NBA championship squad. You would hope that the experience alone would be able to, would help Golden State maintain their composure should something like that happen. Because, look, Oklahoma City, and let's be honest, this is not a knock on OKC at all. They have the knack to get under your skin. You bring up Steven Adams, you can talk about Russell Westbrook. I love watching Russell Westbrook play, but to play against him, it may be a tad bit agitating. The facial expressions, the emotion. Russell Westbrook is one of those guys that you love to play with, you probably hate to play against. It's all going to be on Golden State. How have they matured? And a lot of that will fall on Steve Kerr as well. You can definitely see something like that happening. Andrew Bogut is going to be key in this series as well for Golden State, especially if you have the efficiency offensively from a guy like Steven Adams or Enes Kanter. If that's happening, I mean, the Warriors are going to have to rely on Andrew Bogut a lot. So I think it's all from a maturity standpoint. You have to make sure that you keep your head in the game, and you have to make sure that this young, I guess we can't even call them young anymore, but this brash OKC team, you got to make sure they do not get in your head, because if you lose one of the first 2 games at home at Orlando, we know it's very tough to win there, but things can snowball quickly. And I can see a guy like Draymond Green really getting wrapped up into something like that as well. You bring up Bogut, I think Draymond Green's a guy that you got to pay attention to as well.
I feel like the word young is overused with some of these teams. You you just said, well, it's a young OKC team. Well, maybe not. It's not anymore. We don't really know. Like, they went through the battles that they went through young, so they're right kind of in the, kind of the bowl stage of where Jordan and Pippen were, when it was like, okay, this is when the team should actually be making their run, not when they're 21 and 22. This is when they're right in the wheelhouse of when they should actually be making their run. They were kind of ahead of schedule. And you kind of look at the Bulls, too. When they were in the Eastern Conference Finals, they were way ahead of schedule. And everybody put them on this pedestal like, oh, Derrick Rose, he's the MVP. Granted, he got injured. But you put him ahead of schedule, it really affects a team when a team gets ahead of schedule as far as where their best years are supposed to be.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes perfect sense. I mean, as Chicago Bulls team, you go back to it, the problem with the Bulls, they continue to get older. I think that there was some questionable personnel moves. They were never better than the Miami Heat at any point in time during that run. I never looked at that Chicago roster and said, this is a team that's capable of beating LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I didn't either, but I thought Thibodeau, with what he was able to do with a Derrick Rose-less team, they could they were always an overachiever. We learned that with what they did this year with Fred Hoiberg. They were always an overachieving team. And if they just had that one extra piece, whether it be a healthy Derrick Rose, maybe even with a healthy Derrick Rose over the last couple of years, they get a break into the finals. It's not a guarantee, but it's possible.
It's possible. When I mentioned the personnel moves, and we actually just talked about this a couple of weeks ago on my show, when I bring up the personnel moves that really stand out, it was giving Carlos Boozer a near max contract. And the reason why that stands out now, if you look back in hindsight, it really affected their ability to bring in that extra piece that you were talking about.
Yeah. Well, and the Boozer thing was I don't think it wound up being horrible because they didn't have any money they weren't able to fluctuate stuff. And they also waited too long as far as an amnesty clause. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of the same thing with the Knicks, where you had to sign that deal with Amari to get a Carmelo. You had to sign that deal with Amari to make it a more viable place. Because at the time when they signed Boozer, nobody knew that Rose was going to be an MVP. Nobody knew that, they didn't have Butler. What's his name? Joakim Noah was not a piece that people wanted to play with. He had just come off a season where he had been suspended for, I think it was conduct detrimental to the team. So I think those teams in 2011, when LeBron signed with Miami, when they missed out on LeBron, they signed these deals to better their situation. Some of it worked. Actually, pretty much everything didn't work because Carmelo going to the Knicks did not work out. It turned that into turmoil, and it ruined things for the Bulls with the signing of what's his name, Carlos Boozer. But I think the thought was, okay, well, we have to make our situation look more presentable than what it is right now. And I agree with that idea.
Desperation, almost. It almost, it's almost a desperation move. I understand exactly. Yeah, I think you do hit it right on the head. I mean, it became a sexy thing to do to attract 3 All-Stars following the success that Boston had and the immediate success that Boston had. I mean, Danny Ainge pulls off the deal. He brings in Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen one-off season. The Celtics go from a lottery team to NBA champions. And from that point on, it seemed like that may have been the blueprint for such a quick turnaround. So I think you've seen a lot of teams trying to attract 3 stars. When they refer to Miami as the Big Three, let's be honest. In this era, they were not the original Big Three. It was simply a blueprint laid out by Danny Ainge.
Well, if you actually think about it, the original mashed up Big Three was Barkley, Hakeem, and Drexler, and then it became Barkley, Hakeem, and Pippen. And none of those 3 worked, or none of those 2 worked, but those were the original, and then you got the Carmelo and AI with God knows whoever in Denver. But you look at will you side with me before we get into the Eastern Conference Finals? Will you side with me at least with this? The Knicks had to sign Amari Stoudemire to what they signed him to.
Sure they did.
Okay, because and Carmelo has screwed the Knicks at every turn. And I'm a huge Knicks fan, but they had to sign Amari because it was not a pleasurable place to be in. You had David Lee as your best player. He was a contract. And every good player that you've ever moved has turned into a veteran that was a dumpster fire, whether it be Trevor Ariza, Channing Frye, you name it. Any piece that would be a good alternative or a good role player has turned into a good player that was a disaster in your situation with the Knicks. And with the Knicks, it turned into Steve Francis, it turned into Cuttino Mobley, it turned into Jalen Rose, Stephon Marbury. I could go on and on and on and get drunker and drunker with this conversation. But you look at with Amari Stoudemire, they signed him 5 years, $100 million. Knicks fans will not stop complaining about it. Carmelo forced his way to the Knicks so that he could sign for the max, which led to them gutting their roster of Danilo Gallinari, Wilson Chandler, Timothy Mozgov. And the argument is with these uneducated Knicks fans is, well, you're getting players that are – you gave up players that are not all-stars. That's not the point. The point is you gave up really good, good role players. I know what's happened to Danilo, Chandler, and Mozgov since. They've had some injury problems, but those would be good role players around this team right now versus having a completely gutted roster and Melo complaining and Phil Jackson and not Donnie Walsh as the GM. What are your thoughts as far as the Knicks go?
Well, look, you bring up Phil Jackson, and following the Lakers and being a part of a Lakers podcast earlier this year, the one thing that continues to blow my mind is that Los Angeles has a hankering for Phil Jackson's return to Los Angeles for a front office job. Now, as far as the Knicks go, the Knicks didn't necessarily get into a mess overnight, have to get out of it overnight. However, outside of drafting Porzingis, I know Phil Jackson has made a couple of moves to clear up some salary space, some cap room. And look, the Knicks, and this is my take on the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Nets. The last collective bargaining agreement affected the 3 major markets in the NBA. 3 out of the 4 teams that play in the 2 biggest markets. That's the Nets, that's the Knicks, and the Lakers. Fortunately for the Clippers, they were spoon-fed Chris Paul. That comes after Blake Griffin, and thankfully, if you're a Clippers fan, Blake Griffin recovers from a knee injury. I don't. A lot of people seem to forget that at one point in time, we wondered what type of Blake Griffin we were ever going to see following a nasty knee injury. So, the three teams that I just mentioned, the Lakers, the Knicks, and the Nets, were really affected by the collective bargaining agreement. I think it's part of the reason why the Lakers decided to go all in on Kobe, give him a farewell tour, sign him to a $48 million deal. The Knicks, the Lakers, and the Nets, I think their future is really going to be determined on this next collective bargaining agreement, which will be interesting to see if we have a stoppage or not. The bottom line is you're going to have to draft well over the next year or two, and maybe that creates some sort of excitement that you were just talking about with signing Amari Stoudemire. However, Phil Jackson, the simple way to put it, success on the bench does not necessarily translate to success in the front office. So those three teams, it's going to be very interesting over the next couple of years, and with the new CBA looming, it's going to be extremely interesting. It just adds another plot line to the whole deal.
I am at the point of where I don't care about the players right now. Like, I think Aaron Aflalo was a good signing. Derek Williams was a good sign. Like, I think his thoughts are in the right place. Like, he missed on superstars, and he got Porzingis, he's gotten Aflalo, Derek Williams. I think those are good pieces to have around a couple of his ideas. Okay, we need to get these pieces around a couple of superstars, and I don't really buy that Melo is that superstar in the triangle. And the other thing, the thing that mainly bothers me is that Phil is on this pedestal of, oh, well, the triangle will work as long as we get the right coach. Are you telling me that Kurt Rambis is the right piece? Because even with the Lakers, who he coached with Kobe and Shaq, right before Phil came in, that he is some brainiac and he worked with the Timberwolves like that. I can't tell you how infuriated I will be if Kurt Rambis gets the job and we've had the opportunity to hire Tom Thibodeau, Frank Vogel, Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy. The list goes on and on as far as good coaches that are out there. This might be the best free agent coach market that's out there. And Phil Jackson being on vacation or smoking weed or whatever in Montana, that's not good enough for me. I can't. That's just not good enough for me as far as the Knicks fan goes.
You bring up Frank Vogel. That's the guy that I would definitely target if I was the New York Knicks. I was absolutely blown away by Larry Bird's press conference when he decided to let Frank Vogel go. And even more mind-boggling there is the fact that you let Vogel go and you turn to Nate McMillan. It's a head-scratcher for me. I'm not quite sure what's going on in Indiana. So if I was the Knicks, yes, Frank Vogel would be my top choice. Kurt Rambis, I go back and I look at his tenures as a head coach. He was an interim coach for the Lakers during a 50-game shortened season. Shaq and Kobe, if I remember correctly, they had an 11-game win streak that year. It was also the year they signed Dennis Rodman. But again,
if you want to bring in the shortened season or whatever, then you got to give the Spurs credit for winning the finals in that season.
Oh,
if you're going to Kurt Rambis, okay,
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So my point being is he took over for Del Harris in the 50-game shortened season. I can't remember how far deep in the season it was. The season was still extremely young. I think it's more fair to evaluate Kurt Rambis as a head coach based on his time in Minnesota, which again was not good. It was not very good at all. So I get exactly where you're going at as far as that. But first, when we're talking about head coaches, the deal that Derek Fisher signed on in New York was not exactly a friendly deal to begin with. So you drop the ball once with the head coaching vacancy, you better not do it again. Frank Vogel would hands down be my guy.
Yeah. The idea, well, and that Phil Jackson just kind of wants a pawn to kind of do, he wants a hand in things. But, I mean, it's kind of like what's his name, Bill Parcells thing. You don't want, he's never bought the groceries before. He's always cooked the meal with the groceries already bought. He's never had to buy the groceries for somebody else to cook. And you look in L.A., it was Jerry West. It was Jerry Krause in Chicago. Phil, I don't think he understands the process of buying buying the groceries. He's always understood the process of cooking the meal. And that's the problem with New York right now is he's buying the groceries. And yes, looking at Porzingis, that's a good piece. But signing Melo to a deal when he's coming off a knee injury and he's going to struggle coming off that knee injury, and hiring Derek Fisher, is that really the best thing for the Knicks? And the answer is really no. Not at all.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into the Eastern Conference Finals. Cavs versus the Raptors. What do you expect from this series, and are you complaining about this series in any way?
No, this is actually what I expected going into the postseason. Look, I think if Miami is healthy, and we're talking Chris Bosh and Hassan Whiteside, Chris Bosh, I think, is without a doubt, he could still be an all-star in this league. We haven't seen Chris Bosh in the last little while. He's had some really unfortunate health issues. And then you look at the loss of Hassan Whiteside, I was really hankering for that particular series. But I knew it was going to be a long shot based on where Miami finished and who they would have to go through to essentially get to the Eastern Conference Finals, because it's very difficult to win in Toronto. Now, as far as Cleveland going 8-0 to get out of the first two rounds, I definitely do not expect a sweep in this series. I love the idea. I love the backcourt Toronto possesses in Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. The problem is sometimes they get a little bit too anxious. We see DeMar DeRozan become a volume chucker. When he becomes a volume chucker, you see a lot of just erratic play offensively from this entire team. But look, I love the backcourt. I love it. I think that when these guys are right, when they're shooting an efficient 45 to 50% from the field, it's a very difficult team to beat. Jonas Valanciunas, that injury is horrible for Toronto. So I'm actually quite surprised that Toronto did end up coming out of the series with Miami. I think if it's on Whiteside stays healthy, Miami gets the victory there. It almost turned out to be a flush. As far as Cleveland goes, this is the team that has the most talent in the NBA, or in the Eastern Conference, not the NBA, but the Eastern Conference went to back on this roster. The problem is their role players, and this was a problem in the NBA Finals last year. Now, fortunately for LeBron, he's going to have Kyrie, he's going to have Kevin Love. He didn't have that last year. So you can mask, you can put lipstick on a pig just a tad bit more when you look at some of the role players that you may deem a weaker link should Cleveland get past Toronto. I expect this series to go anywhere from 5 to 7 games. And I say 5 to 7 because Cleveland obviously has the home court advantage, and I just do not see them ending the series in Toronto. So if they win, the first 2 games in Cleveland, lose game 3, win game 4, win game 5, I can see that happening. Or I could see this actually going 7 games. Call me crazy. I've been high on Toronto all year long. I've taken a lot of flack for that because in the past, Toronto hasn't necessarily proven to be the most trustworthy team. We saw that last year. We nearly saw this in the opening round against Indiana, where they were very fortunate to come out of that series. But I really believe the offensive firepower that this team possesses with Lowry and DeRozan can get them a couple of games in this set of Cleveland. I think it's going to be entertaining. It's not going to be as entertaining as the Western Conference Finals, though.
Well, I'm not. Actually, I mean, it won't be as entertaining. But, the funny thing is with that Miami Raptors series, it went 7 games. It went three games went to overtime. And I had Omaha newspaper people from the Omaha World Herald, Dirk Chatwin, saying, "Oh, this was the most boring series on the earth," and he's like, "It set the NBA back to the 1990s," and he's one of the people that wants to say, "Oh, the NBA was great in the 90s," and that was a 90s type of series. Other than Game 7, actually, even Game 7, that was a 90s type of series where it was kind of drag it out. And you look at the Heat, their record when they scored 95 points, that's it was like 6 or 7-0. That's a 90s type of record. When you start saying, "Oh, if you score 95 points or more in a game, you're going to win," that's a 90s type of record, or good or not. And I hate these people that are like, "Oh, this was so boring." It was really not that boring. It was a good series. The last series to go 3 games into overtime was that Bulls and Celtics series, and I think it was 07 or 08 when it went 4. And I just don't understand these. And the first round bothered me, where there was all these blowouts. But for the most part, this second round really, I really liked this second round of NBA. First round bothered me because there was a lot of blowouts. But where do you stand as far as these first and second round series?
Yeah, the first round, I mean, the Western Conference, we start by talking about the Western Conference here for just a second, because it's starting to even out just a tad bit more. Remember, I mean, we're not that far removed from teams winning 48 to 50 wins, becoming 8 seeds in the Western Conference. That's obviously not the case this year. You had a couple of teams floating around the 500 barrier. I look at where the first round was in the Eastern Conference. I talked about the Indiana-Toronto series. That was very interesting. Paul George was fantastic. He looked like he was the best player in that series, and because of it, he made he gave us a great 7-game set. I look at the Cleveland-Detroit series. You can tip your hat to Detroit. I thought Detroit played Cleveland very well. They put themselves in a position to grab a couple of games in that series. But I'm with you. For the most part, the first round was not very it was boring. I think it was somewhat predictable on who was actually going to come out of the first round. Now you go into the second round. Portland shocked the hell out of me in the second round. Not only that series went 5 games, but look, Portland in Game 5, I didn't see it coming, because Portland was a team that does not have a whole lot of playoff experience. LaMarcus Aldridge leaves. You have, 3 or 4 new starters on the team this season. You lose it in overtime at the Moda Center, and against a team you probably should have won that game. Now it's an elimination on the road, and they came out and they battled. They battled for their playoff lives. I love that series. I thought all 5 games were very entertaining. OKC San Antonio was a terrific series. I am with you 100% on the Miami-Toronto series, because I believe after Game 4, the separation in total points was 5 points. That may not, and again, I'm not talking about the quality of basketball, because at times, yes, it was sloppy from both squads, but it was entertaining basketball nonetheless. And I think that it doesn't matter what sport we're talking about. We view 130 to 120 games as brilliant games. We view the 90 to 89, 90 to 88 games as boring, sloppy games, because we live at this time, the way sports has evolved, people don't appreciate defense the way they used to. I didn't necessarily think that series was boring at all.
Well, and it's perceived as, if there's good defense, it's perceived as bad offense. And that's
correct, yeah.
That's what, you're not going to have to accuse him, but I will. Dirk Chatlin of the Omaha World Herald, who only watches the NBA when it's in the playoffs, but he'll say, like, oh, the Miami versus Raptors series was unwatchable, and I'll tell you what, yeah, okay, it's not. Is it fun to watch right now? No, because we're used to watching Thunder, Warriors. If you're used to watching West Coast basketball, yes, it's not fun. But if you're used to watching, if you're a fan of the Knicks, or you were a fan of the Bulls, or you were a fan of the Heat, or you were a fan of the Pacers, whoever it may be in the Eastern Conference over the last, 15, 20 years, you're going to have fun watching that series. And I had fun watching that series. I watched that series at work, and I didn't have a problem with it whatsoever.
No, I didn't either. I'm with you. I thought that series got a bad rap. Also, I think the problem with the Toronto-Miami series, I'm going to say, at least in the minds of the pundits, sometimes when you have almost a blowout on the opposite side of the bracket, like we had with Cleveland and Atlanta, you would expect some sort of quick retaliation from the team that they are going to meet in the next round. And we didn't get that because it went 7 games and it was 2-2 after the first 4 games. You had both teams winning on each other's court. So I also believe that the way Cleveland has handled their first 2 opponents in the postseason has played into the flip side of the bracket just a tad bit. And that kind of, I don't want to say poisons the mind, but at the same time you say, well, Cleveland's handling guys and, they're handling teams in 4-game sets, as where, Miami, they snuck by the Hornets. You look at Toronto, they sneak by Indiana. These teams have had their struggles throughout the first 2 rounds, especially Toronto, now that they're set for the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think that plays into it a little bit as well, Bob.
Well, Jordan, a couple more things before I let you go. What is your opinion what's going to happen in the Eastern Conference Finals? What's going to happen in the Western Conference Finals? And then we don't need anything other than that because I'll have you back on before the finals actually happen. So what's going to happen in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals?
I'm going to go ahead and say Cleveland wins in 5. I think that it's very difficult for Cleveland. Cleveland's not going to close out the series in front. So if they don't want to go to a Game 7, they have to finish this before Game 6. To me, that seems a little bit more logical. I'm just playing the odds there. But I think Toronto's going to be a game opponent. I think we're going to have an entertaining series.
Yes.
The guy that to pay attention to, and this is one of the things in the Atlanta series. Remember the on-ball defender, the top on-ball defender for Atlanta last season was DeMarre Carroll.
Yes.
We didn't see a healthy DeMarre Carroll in the postseason last year, and Atlanta was supposed to be the team that would challenge Cleveland for the Eastern Conference crown. This is an interesting series. I do think Cleveland ends up handling Toronto. In the Western Conference, give me the secure option here, and that's Golden State, because we've talked about OKC a little bit. I know that they have 2 of the top 5 players in the league. I actually believe here as of late, Russell Westbrook has even outshined Kevin Durant at stages, and I'm a huge Russell Westbrook fan. I believe that this team could knock out Golden State, but just a well-rounded team in Golden State. They have the home court advantage. If Steph Curry is 90% healthy and he can stay healthy, stay on the court for the length of this series, I think Golden State gets there in anywhere from 6 to 7 games. This is a team that I believe can win on the road, and it's going to be fun. I hate to go against OKC once again because I did not give them much of a chance in the San Antonio series. Definitely did not give them much of a chance to close out Game 6, but they've done it in fashion. So give me a rematch of last year's NBA Finals.
Okay, let's say, so Durant, Westbrook, Curry, and LeBron are the top 4 players in the league. Who's the 5th?
The crazy thing is, at the beginning of the year, I would have said I had Anthony Davis pegged as my MVP at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen glimpses of that, when he had the 59-point game. That's a tough question. That's a really tough question. I think you could definitely go several different avenues. Next season, if Paul George can stay healthy, I think Paul George can be a top 5 player in the NBA. It's tough to go against Anthony Davis based on the fact that there's just not very many right now.
Do you think it's just a question mark at this point? Because, last year you could go Harden to a certain degree. You could go Davis to a certain degree. Paul George, you could go to a certain degree at this point. Can we just leave it at 4? Like, is there even a 5th guy? Like those 4 are really spectacular. Is there even a 5th spectacular player? Because I can't really think of one right now.
No, again, as we were just talking about, there's a couple of guys that you could really make an argument for, but it's kind of up for debate at this point in time. Now, if we're talking two-way basketball, Russell Westbrook is a great two-way player. Kawhi Leonard is a terrific two-way player. Draymond Green may be the most complete player in the league. So you can break it down in different avenues, as these guys play both ways on the court. And even in the last OKC series, for me, it was a debate, who's the best two-way player in the game? Is it Draymond Green or is it Kawhi Leonard? I think in the OKC San Antonio series, I see some flaws offensively in Kawhi Leonard's game that's going to have to develop in order for him to be the best two-way player in the game. So then you start breaking it down into categories. So, no, I'm with you. I think you name the top 4 players in the league. It's hard to argue if somebody wants to put Anthony Davis in or if they want to put a healthy Paul George in at number 5. At that point, it's up for debate. So I think it's a lockdown on the top 4 players easily: Steph Curry, LeBron James, Westbrook, and Durant.
Okay. One more question before I let you go when we go to break. And this is going to sound a little convoluted and a little complicated, but I'll do it anyways. I think you can handle it. Okay. So my opinion is, from what I've talked to from people from OKC, Durant is going to re-sign with the Thunder for at least a year and see what Westbrook does. So this is my question. If Durant re-signs to stay with Westbrook for another year, this is my question. Do Durant and Westbrook sign to play with Harden? What is more likely? Do Durant and Westbrook re-sign together and then go play with Harden in Houston? And 2017, is that what the numbers were? Or 2018? Is that what the numbers were?
2018. 2018.
Or that, or does LeBron sign with somebody else this offseason or the next offseason? What is your opinion? What is more likely to happen?
Well, with LeBron being head of the players' union, you're going to see a lot of superstars. I believe, including the next CBA, I think you're going to see a lot of superstars signing 1-year deals. Keep their options open. Would not shock me one bit if Kevin Durant signs a 1-year deal. I don't see Westbrook and Durant leaving together to team up with somebody in Houston. To me, that doesn't seem very realistic. I believe that Russell Westbrook is actually more prone to leaving OKC than Kevin Durant. But Durant signs a 1-year deal. If they lose to San Antonio, everything is on the table. I know there's been a lot of talk about potentially Durant going to Golden State. That's not typical. That doesn't seem like Kevin Durant's personality to me. The talk of Kevin Durant going to LA, preposterous. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. Kevin Durant's not going to leave a team competing for a championship, playing with another top 5 player in his prime, just so he can go to an LA market and be quote-unquote the man. That's not going to happen. It seems like Russell Westbrook would be more prone to doing something like that than Kevin Durant. So based off of the two situations, I got to roll with LeBron, especially if LeBron doesn't get a championship this year, because when LeBron moved back over to Cleveland, and I know it was a power move, but nobody can convince me otherwise that LeBron saw an opportunity in Cleveland playing with the Heat, who had a terrific run, going to the finals 4 straight years. LeBron saw something there. He knew that Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, well, especially Dwayne Wade, his body was breaking down. I think LeBron saw an avenue in Cleveland that he could take, and that within a year, this team would be more competitive than the Miami Heat. Just so happened they traded Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love. You ask me right now, bogus trade. They may have won an NBA championship last year with an Andrew Wiggins. I can see LeBron shafting Cleveland before I see Durant and Westbrook teaming up in Houston together with James Harden. And it's probably even more likely that OKC brings back James Harden, I think, before Westbrook and Durant end up in Houston.
Well, that's fair. That's honest. That's good. Jordan, before I let you go, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, the radios, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I host Drive Time Sports in Utah, KOAL 103.9 FM, 750 AM, under the Eastern Utah Broadcasting tag. My show, Drive Time Sports, is on 7 days a week. We get rolling at 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And then we're at it again on Saturday at 7 o'clock, and we're at it at Sunday, 3 p.m., boring NASCAR coverage. We're a Utah Jazz NASCAR affiliate. A lot of sports, both local, national. We also cover some regional sports as well, so it's kind of a mix of everything. You can listen to the show. You can stream it live at CastleCountryRadio.com. And we also throw out the links all the time on Twitter, Jordan_DTF.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, first time you've been on, I am honored to finally have you on. It was a good time talking to you. I went way overboard as far as time went, but it was an honor talking to you, man.
Hey, my pleasure. It was great to be on. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Absolutely, man. And on that note, we will be right back with Thomas Murphy of ProFootballCentral.com, talking NFL here on the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at LateNightSportsRadio.com.
So wide you can't get around it.
So low you can't get under it.
Welcome into the Bob Sullivan Show at LateNightSportsRadio.com. I did not perfectly introduce this, but I'm with Thomas Murphy talking NFL in this recorded segment for the last segment of the show. And enjoy. Welcome back to the Bob Sullivan Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. I am joined here now by Thomas Murphy of ProFootballCentral.com and a columnist from SportsInfusion.net. Thomas, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Bob. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Glad to find. I think we've been Twitter buddies for I don't know, a couple of years now.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to have you on, so I'm glad to finally have you on.
Happy to be here and glad you asked.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we get into football, you are a huge Red Sox fan. New England area. Looking at the Red Sox, they've gotten hot as of late. Would you consider it what would you factor in? The schedule or they're actually playing well? Because I feel like the schedule, other than the White Sox in the last, 15, 20 games, that's been their best competition.
Without a doubt, the White Sox were their stiffest competition. But I mean, they've also been going up against a lot of division rivals, and that's always hard. Even if they're down against other teams outside of the division, everybody always gets up for the Red Sox, and they're always playing at their best. So I think it's a combination of both. But this team has really been whacking the ball lately. I don't know what they're ladling into the soup, but it's working.
Well, let's hope it's legal.
Yeah. Let's all hope it's legal.
At 40 years old, David Ortiz, again, started slow. I mean, this has been his MO for the last couple of years, is starting slow and then getting hot. How long do you expect this to last from a 40-year-old DH?
With the right amount of rest, I think he might be able to pull this off for the whole season, but I wouldn't bet the house on it. It's true, David never gets off to a really quick start. He usually heats up in June, July, and then runs through. But I think that's because the man actually paces himself. This year he knows that this is it. This is the swan song. He's getting all the gifts as he goes around the league, and he wants to go out on top. He wants to go out known as the best DH that ever played the game, and he doesn't want to finish this season at the bottom of the AL divisions the way they have the past 2 years. So I look for David to continue with this, and as long as he stays healthy and gets enough rest, I think he can keep doing it.
With the way they've been going about this, kind of farewell tour, are you sick of it already?
Oh, yeah.
Or, where do you stand on all these farewell tours? I think the fans should get to vote on who gets them and who doesn't.
There you go.
So we don't have to deal with it.
Right. I mean, it's a big deal here that this is David's last year. It's probably a big deal in New York, a few other places, but really, I mean, in Texas, is it a big deal that, this is the last time they're going to see David Ortiz? I don't think so. It's tiresome to me already. It was that way with Jeter a couple of years ago. It'll be that way when Aroyd finally hangs it up, and it does. It gets tiresome, Bob. It really does. I'm done with it. Just give the guy his truck, give him his hat, and let him ride off into the sunset. The thing that gets me is that all these players think they're entitled to it. I think David Ortiz is an all-time great. I think he's going to be the first DH in the Hall of Fame who got there solely on what he did as a designated hitter. But I just honestly I don't see what Houston or somebody in Milwaukee or Kansas City would see in David Ortiz riding off this way. That's perfectly fine with me if they just gave him a standing ovation and moved on. Let's just get the game on.
Well, I mean, it would be like if Albert Pujols had a retirement thing and the Red Sox did something for him. Like, nobody cared. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was the Cubs or the Astros or some team that had a history with the guy. But, yeah, I mean, with Jeter, I kind of get it because he was kind of the face of baseball, so maybe it makes a little bit more sense. But with Ortiz, there's no these.
Yeah, it's too regional. Baseball has become a really regional sport, and unless you're that transcendent type player, like I hate to say it, like Derek Jeter was, I don't see the point in it.
Well, speaking of regional. Do you feel like the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry has gotten stale and forced? On a national level, I sure do. It's one thing when both of these teams are competing year in and year out. I honestly have no idea how old you are. It's not the 70s anymore. When that was happening, it was a national thing. The only time you got to see these players play was against each other because we had Monday Night Baseball, and that was it. And Red Sox-Yankees rivalry was
amazing, even through the 80s and 90s when both of the teams are really competing. They haven't been good at the same time for quite a few years. And yeah, I do. I think it's a bit forced. I think ESPN and MLB Network, they put a little too much into, the history of it all. And even the players, you see them warming up on the field together. They're standing next to each other at the batting cages and talking it up for, an hour before the game. This didn't happen when we were kids. Carlton Fisk hated the Yankees. Bill Lee hated the Yankees. Jim Rice, you couldn't talk to a Yankee and then come talk to him if you wore a Red Sox uniform. Nowadays, these guys are all friends. They're all on the same team, and it's the NFL. The NFL, the Major League Baseball Players Union. That's what it is. So yeah, the fire's gone out, and if it gets back to that point, if the Yankees are good again and the Red Sox are still good, when the Yankees finally, pull up out of the trough that they're in, it'll be there. It's there between the fans. It's still something here in the Northeast that's important. But no, I can't see how anybody in Seattle is going to want to tune into, Sunday Night Baseball and watch these guys when they get to see them all the time anyway. It's not the special thing that it was. It's one of the reasons the All-Star game is not what it was before, because we get to see these players whenever we want to. Interleague play has really, also ripped apart, how certain games are special, even the World Series and definitely the All-Star game. Can't stand interleague play. It just makes me insane. But I'm tired of banging my head against the wall asking people to stop it. But no, getting back to your original point, it's not what it was, and unless both of these teams are firing on all cylinders during the same season and that hatred and animosity towards each other is there, it's not going to be the same again.
I can see the interleague argument from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 26, so it's been around pretty much
your whole life. Yeah,
4/5 of my life, basically. Yep. So I can see it from both sides, where it's, the one thing I will say, who cares? Nobody wants to see the Padres versus the Blue Jays or something like that on a weekday. But I guess the alternative is, who wants to see the Padres anyway?
Great point.
But my thing is if they're going to do it, I think it's kind of cool when they do. I guess it's a good money maker when it's Yankees, Mets, Cubs, White Sox. Those are good money makers. But if it's the Mariners don't have a crosstown rival. Right. I get where they try to make it special for a state or special for a region, but there's not money to be made on a Padres-Mariners game.
No.
There's just not.
There isn't. There's no TV audience for it. There's no gate for it. It's ridiculous. It was a nice little thing for a couple of years, but it got stale and tired 3 years into the experiment. It was fun to begin with, but now it's old. It's gotten old.
Well, my idea was to have robots umpire interleague games, so that do different things in interleague games to make it a little bit more unique.
I wrote the same article I a few years back, maybe 5 years back, saying that switch things up. If you're in a National League park, have the DH in the National League park. And have pitchers, which God, I don't know why they still do this. Have pitchers hit in the American League parks. Do something to make it more exciting for the home crowd people to maybe see a different brand of baseball. Yeah, I agree, and it just things. The NBA isn't. They have their times where it struggles. Like this year was kind of a watered down year, but for the most part, when things get stale with their league, they find a way to either make it better or make it more watchable. Right. And they always find ways to change. Baseball,
is one of the few games. I think they're slowly getting towards that with Rob Manfred, where they're going to find ways to, you don't want to completely get rid of the old-time fan base, but you also don't want to completely push out the new age of fans that like to be on their phones and, make the game a little bit more interactive without bringing back Scooter on Fox.
There you go. I agree. Something needs to be done, and they are. They're moving in the right direction, making things more fan interactive. I think fantasy helps a lot. I think the fantasy game boosts attendance. It definitely boosts interest in the games. So that's a good thing. And like you said, these kids are in the park on their phones. That's one of the reasons we're hanging nets everywhere, because nobody's watching the game. They're watching it on their iPhone to see if they're going to be on TV.
Yeah, they're waiting for that next selfie.
Yep.
On the Jumbotron.
Another opportunity. Ballparks have become destination places, and Fenway's been that way for a long time. They like to call them the pink hats up here, a term that I hate. Because when you pull into Fenway, you see buses from New Hampshire and Vermont and Maine. Grandma coming down to catch her one game of the year and taking her grandson or grandpa doing the same thing, aunts and uncles. The crowds you see packing Fenway, these aren't people from Brockton. It's not people from Arlington. It's not like when I was a kid and you get $2 from your dad to jump on the tee, go in and catch the game from the bleachers and then ride back out. These are people from all over New England who fill it up, and they come to 2 or 3 games a year. The fan base is still solid, don't get me wrong. The season ticket holders, there's still 30,000 of them, but most of those tickets get resold to somebody else, and it's really a different person sitting next to you every night, and not that feeling that you get when you see in the movies. I met this guy in 1973, and I've been sitting next to him every game since then.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and the funny thing with that is you've been sitting next to him. The only time you see that guy is at the ballpark.
Right.
You don't want to hang out with him outside the ballpark.
Nope.
You're just like, oh, hey, there's Bill.
You're not barbecuing with him. You're not inviting him over for Christmas Eve dinner. It's nothing like that. This is Bill from the ballpark, and you introduce your son to him or somebody else, and you're right. You're absolutely right. That's great.
It's funny. We've gotten away from that in society. Well, you know what has really ruined it is Facebook and Twitter and social media and texting and all this stuff. But,
no doubt.
It used to be everybody knew, I guess, their role in people's lives or knew where to leave it alone, I guess would be the best thing. Like, you have Bill at the ballpark that you see every day, and for 3 days you don't see him again until the next homestand or whatever it is, and they know that that's where the relationship ends.
Yep.
And that's it. Or you have, somebody who, somebody that you go down the street to get a loaf of bread from, like that's they're fine with the relationship ending there. They're the person who sells you bread. Now everybody has to be friends. Now everybody, there's no
boundaries.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows boundaries.
Yep, exactly. There's no boundaries anymore. If you like something that I put on Facebook, so let's get together and have a beer. Let's invite your kids to my kid's birthday party. No, guy, you're somebody I know on Twitter, and I like you, and thank you for following me on Twitter. But I mean, it's like I say, I don't use my kids' real names on Twitter at all. Simply for that fact, just to put that distance in between people.
Well, it's funny with the kind of, you could be friendly without having to be forced friends.
Right. Exactly.
And I don't think people understand that anymore because it's like you're a dick if you don't.
Right.
You know what? If you put it perfectly. Hey, let's go get beers because you like my status on Facebook, or. Actually, this is a perfect example. Somebody at work, I bought 20 boxes of Girl Scout cookies from her daughter.
Wow.
Because, I'm a big fan of Girl Scout cookies.
Sure.
And but that was where I wanted the relationship to end.
Mhm.
Like I don't, I could care less if her daughter was going to go into, continue on in Girl Scouts, be a cheerleader, whatever.
Right.
I didn't care. I just wanted
You
the
like
cookies.
Thin Mints, and she was your source, and that was it.
Yeah. And the mom, so I ordered them through her mom, and
Yep.
then her mom continued to be like, "Oh yeah, Jesse, she's going to do this summer." And it's like, I don't know your daughter. I've never met your daughter.
Mm.
I don't, I hope she doesn't, go down a dark, destructive path in her life. But I also don't care, how
Exactly.
good or how bad she's doing. I just wanted the cookies. If I would have known this was going to happen, I would never have bought any cookies.
Great. I know. Hey, look, I don't want your daughter to end up on a stripper pole, but I really don't care about her grades this month either. Thank you very much for the do-si-dos, and I'll wave hi to you in the hallway.
Yeah. If my cookies kept her off the stripper, if me buying cookies kept her off the stripper pole,
There you go.
that's great. But I don't want to know whether she's on that pole or off that pole.
Right.
6 years from now.
Bravo.
Okay, so last couple things. Going into the NFL here. With the Patriots, old Tom Brady debacle, Jimmy Garoppolo, what's your thought going into this season? Are you?
Excuse me. Sorry.
What are your impressions right now?
Well, my impressions right now are the first district judge that overturned this basically eviscerated everything that Goodell had done, everything that came out in the Wells report, and the second judge that overturned that just reiterated that it doesn't matter. Goodell has the power to do this, and so step up and take your punishment whether you deserve it or not. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do pretty well. I don't think he's going to do great. I think if the Pats come out 500 after this, they'll be really lucky. If Garoppolo does well, it's good for everybody. It's good for Garoppolo. It's good for the Patriots. It's good for Tom Brady, because when he comes back, he'll have a bigger chip on his shoulder and something else to prove. And we all know when Tom Brady feels like he has something else to prove, he usually goes to an extraordinary type of orbit. So I just want it to be over, to be honest with you, at this point in time. I don't blame Tom for still fighting. He believes he's innocent. He believes he didn't do anything wrong. And that's great. But right now, I want it to end. I want it to go away.
Well, and I think in some situations, if Garoppolo came out gangbusters and just went 4-0, through 250 in every game and 10 touchdowns, I think there'd be some major issues there as far as a fan base goes. I mean, and as far as the starter goes. And even if let's say Garoppolo doesn't throw an interception, they're 4-0, they're playing well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best case scenario for Brady to come back into.
Oh, sure.
Because then he's like, all right, now I actually have to earn my spot back, and I have to prove something to Goodell, or he's going to do something to, I guess, tarnish Goodell, like just rub it in his face and whatnot. And it also will motivate Belichick. Not that he really needs any motivating, but it'll be like, all right, let's stick it to Goodell on this one.
Oh, sure.
The whole organization is going to be that way, and that's not good for the rest of the league right now.
No, it's really not. When you basically put a pie into the face of Bill Belichick, and he's going to come back angry over it. He doesn't forget anything. This man forgets nothing ever. Everything that comes up is bulletin board material for him, and whether it's 0-4 or 4-0 or 500, they're going to come back with a vengeance. Game 5, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not. It's going to look exactly like it did when Brady came out at the beginning of last year. It's going to look exactly like it did after that moronic Spygate crap that happened a few years back. The Patriots were right there on the cusp of immortality. took it all the way to the Super Bowl before getting knocked off. There was a perfect season that was happening, and I think that might be what happens this year.
You know, a couple of years ago, Trent Dilfer, the genius that he is,
yep,
seemed to want to pour dirt on the Patriots. A lot of people did.
Sure.
Not just Trent Dilfer, but Dilfer in particular was after the Kansas City game. This team is done.
Yep.
And they've been the furthest thing from that. And looking at what they've done, you know, they're still going to win they're probably still going to win the division this year. Do you see them as a, you know, what do you think their biggest weakness is right now going into this season?
You know, the biggest weakness going into this season is probably the run game. I'm not happy that we didn't do anything in the draft, but it's still early. This is the way Bill does. He doesn't put a lot of premium on the running game. He feels that he can pluck a running back out of anywhere, stick him in there. This is a passing offense. That and the offensive line. I would have liked to see us take a legitimate tackle for this offensive line, but Skarnecki is back. We'll see if he can do his magic. There aren't many offensive line coaches that have done as much with as little as Dante Skarnecchia has, and so I really hesitate calling it a weakness, but that's what I would probably call the biggest weakness on this team.
Well, looking at the draft as a whole, from every team, who do you think is going to have the quickest return on their?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow. Can I tell you it's not going to be the Philadelphia Eagles?
I do feel like Wentz will be good, but not great. He'll just be fine. Like he'll be a fine quarterback, but it's going to take a while.
I'm not a fan of Carson Wentz at all. I think he is basically. You just told me you were in your 20s, so you're probably not going to. He's Jeff George in this century. You know, he looks great in his shorts. He you know, things look fantastic running drills and in practices, but he doesn't have the experience. If they throw him in there, it's going to be the learning curve is going to be steep, and he has never seen football played this fast in his life. I'm not a huge fan of his.
Well, he is. You know, I will say this: he doesn't seem like a jerk.
No.
Like Jeff George was.
Right. I wasn't comparing him on that level at all. I think he's a down to earth, solid kid that will put in the work, unlike Jeff George did. This kid is not Jeff George in that manner. He's not Ryan Leaf in that manner. I just think that the way his game is going to have to develop at a turbo type of rate. I don't see that happening. It's a huge jump, and he was a fantastic ball player at his level. But you also have to consider he wasn't offered another deal anywhere. Right. He wasn't asked to transfer anywhere. Nobody called him up and said, you know, come play Division A for me. That sends up a huge red flag in my book. Nobody saw what practically everybody in the NFL decided that they were going to see out of Carson Wentz when it came to be the draft. I had him rated as a fourth round pick and a project, and they gave up the bloody world to trade up and get this guy. I don't get it. But as for who's going to you know, getting back to your original question, I hate that. I'm sorry. I do that all the time. Getting back to I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to see the quickest turnaround, and you're going to see them make some serious noise this year after what they did in the draft. I had Treadwell ranked as the best wide receiver in this class. I love what they did. Mackenzie Alexander was a fantastic pick. So was, all the way down to Stephen Weatherly that they grabbed on day 3, I think. Rick Spellman did a fantastic job. He helped Teddy Bridgewater all over the field, and I really think that it's going to pay off for the Vikings faster than anybody else.
Who's going to have the quickest complaints about their draft class?
They're going to complain, but it's not going to be it's not going to be valid. The Detroit Lions. I thought Detroit had a really good draft. It wasn't sexy. It was solid. You know, from top to bottom, it was a straight B class. You know, they didn't hit a home run anywhere, but what they did was, you know, hit a lot of doubles, and a lot of doubles eventually gets you a lot of runs. And I'm sorry, I always go back to baseball, but I think Detroit, their fan base isn't going to be, you know, thrilled, but what they're doing there in the Motor City is going to pay off in the long run.
Well, Thomas, before I let you go, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, your work on the internets, and all that good stuff?
Sure. You guys can listen to me every Tuesday night on Patriot Central Radio. I also write for ProFootballCentral.com and the SportsInfusion.net. You can follow me on Twitter at TMurph207, and I always give you a shout out. I love interacting with my Twitter followers. I'm not somebody that ignores anybody's questions and or comments or wants to rip me down a few notches. That's always a lot of fun. Bob, thanks for having me on. It was a real pleasure, and I hope we can do it again.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll have to do this again soon. Closer to when we get to OTAs or whatever's coming up next in this, you know, the long NFL off season that we have.
Sounds good. There's no off season anymore. Goodell, that's the only job Goodell has done well, is the fact that there's no off season in the NFL anymore.
That is true. He knows how to sell the brand, and
sure does. You know, and that's what keeps
crap
his
on
job.
The people that, yeah.